Hello, welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to be taking a close look at paper 1 of English language O-level, October-November 2019, variant 1-1. Okay, and the instructions are the following. Answer both section 1 and section 2. Okay, essentially. And do they still have the reminder of good English? No, not for this one. Okay, but anyway, good English, right, is also always a must for these exams. Okay, so both section 1 and section 2. First section is section 1, of course. You are advised to write between 200 and 300 words. Total marks for this part 30. Okay, so section 1, 30 marks are allocated. 15 marks are allocated to following the task instructions, and 15 marks for language that you use. Okay, so let's read the task. Recently, 2 of your relatives who live abroad came to stay with your family for a week. This was a very happy event for everyone. You decide to write to your aunt who lives in another city to tell her about the visit. Write your letter. You must include the following. Okay, so 15 marks for the instructions, which are here. Who the relatives are and when they came to visit. Details about what you and your relatives did together during the visit. What your relatives enjoyed most about their visit and why. Okay, so cover all 3 points above in detail. You should make your letter interesting and informative. Start your letter, dear aunt, and remember to supply an appropriate ending. Okay, so few things here that I'm going to highlight and that we must respect. So, who the relatives are, when they came to visit. Okay, details about what you and your relatives did together during the visit, what your relatives enjoyed most. Okay, again, detail, interesting and informative, and you start with dear aunt. Okay, and remember that you are writing about the relatives who are visiting, but the letter itself is addressed to your aunt who is in another city. Okay, so let's take a look at what I did for this section. I have an example of my answer, and we can discuss what I believe to be the strength of my answer and also potential weaknesses in my answer. Okay, so I hope that maybe you want to pause and write this down so that as I'm reading, you can sort of analyze my letter, but we'll go through it anyway. So here we go. So my letter already. So dear Aunt Marge, I hope that you're at the end of recovering from the illness. Thank you so much for the letter and the gift that you sent me last week for my birthday. It truly means the world knowing that despite being sick, you still find the strength to make me feel special. That's why you'll always be my favorite auntie. By the way, you guessed right. As per tradition, we went to the chalet for the whole week leading up to my birthday. Nothing changed. The usual attendees were there. We played board games, went jet skiing, watched movies every night, spent a few afternoons on the yacht, ate Uncle Ned's amazing food, and hosted the annual cooking contest, with Dad being the sole judge, hence Mom winning, of course. Haha. But guess who surprised us when we got there? Uncle Clancy and my cousin Ralph from Dad's side of the family. I didn't see them since they moved to Paris 10 years ago. You should hear Ralph's accent. It's hilarious. At first, the small talk was slightly awkward, but it quickly changed after a few hours. It felt like he never moved. Uncle Clancy actually said that they'll be coming back to Springfield for good in the next year. Seeing us again made him feel really homesick. Oh, we also got a new toy for the chalet, a flyboard. It's a water-fueled board that enables you to fly as high as a bird. Ralph loved it, and surprisingly, so did Uncle Clancy, even though he almost broke his back once or twice. Anyway, birthday/family getaway week was a good time, but it wasn't the same without my athletic partner in crime. Get well now, love, M. Okay, so this is the letter that I have. Let's analyze together what is good and what could potentially be problems. So let's see if if I respected the tasks, so who the relatives are and when they came to visit. Okay, so here who the relatives are, I say, but guess who surprised us when we got there? Uncle Clancy and my cousin Ralph. Okay, so my uncle and the cousin, right? And here we have two relatives who live abroad that came to visit. Okay, and here I say clearly I name two of them, and then I say that they moved to Paris 10 years ago, so it's been 10 years, so they're abroad. Okay, and next thing is when they came to visit. Okay, I say they came to visit, right? You guessed right, we went to the chalet for the whole week leading up to my birthday. So they came for my birthday, they came for the birthday/family getaway week. Okay, so when they came to visit, that's when. Details about what you and your relatives did together. So here's where it gets a little bit subjective and ambiguous. I'm talking about a birthday week, and we have the restriction of 200 to 300 words. So how much details is the marker looking for? Then that's where things can get a little bit ambiguous, because here I enumerated all the activities, hoping that the details would be enough. So we played board games, jet skiing, watched movies every night, okay? So even more detailed, every night specifically, spent a few afternoons on the yacht, ate Uncle Ned's amazing food, and hosted the annual cooking contest. Okay, so details of what we did together. It's a whole entire week, so I can't stick with 200 and 300 words and describe every single day of that week in great detail. Okay? And remember, it does say that the family came to visit for a week. So putting in so much details, a week in 300 words, it can get complicated. Okay? And so that's where I think, cover all 3 points above in detail. So I think that may be one potential weakness of my answer, is I didn't go deep into details. Okay? What your relatives enjoyed most about their visit. What they enjoyed most. Here I specifically talk about the flyboard, and I point out, I enumerated the activities that we did here, but I specifically single out the fact that Ralph loved it, and surprisingly, so did Uncle Clancy. So their favorite activity was the new toy, which is the flyboard. Okay, so here I'm confident about the marks here. I'm confident about the marks here. This one, I'm very respected it, but ambiguous. All right. So here I cannot tell you that I'm 115% confident. I'm 80-90% confident that the details are okay. And here, make your letter interesting. So here, interesting, I think I made it interesting because it flows nicely. Here, I take the time to acknowledge my aunt. You know, you don't usually start a letter and say, "Dear Aunt Marge, this uncle and that uncle came and we did this and we did that." It's, why would she care, right? So here I think it's a little bit interesting because I state that there's a tradition that for the week leading up to my birthday, my family and I go to the chalet or whatever, and it's a tradition, but clearly Aunt Marge is sick this year, so she missed it. She missed the event, but she still sent me a gift and a letter. So my letter is a response to her letter. So it flows pretty nicely, logically, okay? And then, so I believe it's quite interesting. You can be the judge of that. Informative, I believe that it is informative because here, or maybe not, again, this one I'm iffy about the informative part, but I added information about a flyboard. And you may ask, where did I pull this information from? It's because I like activities. I'm someone that's very active. I like sports. So that's one thing that I personally always wanted to try, flyboard. So I know stuff about that. That's why I'm like, let me just throw that in. It fits in, right? Okay, so this is the answer that I have for question 1. And the tips that I have and the tricks to making sure that on the spot, right? Because how did I come up with this so seamlessly is you first look at all of the requirements and you think to yourself, okay, so what can I easily do and what is challenging? Okay, and depending on the easy stuff to do, you work those around the more challenging ones. Okay, so for example, the challenging part of this question is the detail and having it being interesting and informative. Okay, so here the first thing I told myself is, they live abroad, where do they live? And where am I right now? Okay, and they visited for a week. So what would we be doing for a week? And it's a happy event for everyone. Okay, so I thought happy event, you usually have celebrations, you have holidays or New Year's or whatever, right? So you have to choose which one you want to work around. And whatever you choose, you have to make sure, remember, interesting and informative. Okay, so for me, I thought I like cabins and I like sports and I like relaxed family time. So okay, we went to a chalet for a week. Okay, and why would we go for a week? It's a happy event. Let's just say that my birthday happened to be during the summer, and we just happened to go there the week leading up to my birthday, and my aunt couldn't make it. So you just ask yourself a bunch of questions regarding to the content, and you slowly come up with the ideas and the content, and you just make it all link and make sense, and you could write a bunch of notes. Okay, and usually, honestly, since I'm used to doing writing, so it's with practice, right? The more you write, the more you think creatively, the more these things just come naturally to you. So usually all I need to do is I just need to look at everything that I underlined, and I just make stuff up in my head, and then I start writing. Okay, but what you can do is, just like in the previous videos, right, I show you how to brainstorm formally, so you can take 10 minutes to quickly write down ideas and sort them out, so that you make sure that you hit all of the requirements that are asked. I forgot to check mark this. Okay, and so that's what I have for you for task 1. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them down below. Okay. Now we go off to section 2. Remember, I'm just trying to look here. I forgot precisely how much time we have for this paper. Yes, an hour and 30 minutes. Okay, so remember, an hour and 30 minutes is not much. So you don't want to spend too much time thinking. Okay, so I would say maximum 10 minutes to really figure out what you're doing, and then you have to start writing. Okay, so section 2, composition. Begin your answer on a new page of your answer booklet. Write on one of the following topics. So just one. At the beginning of your composition, put the number of the task that you have chosen. You are advised to write between 350 and 500 words. Total marks for this part, 30. Okay, so both section 1 and section 2 involve 30 marks. And also, another thing that I've noticed is that they say you are advised to write between 350 to 500 words. And for me, I take this as 500 is my limit. Okay, I personally wouldn't go. If I go over 500, it's maybe 510 words. You know, they probably won't punish you because of that. But if you start writing 600 or 700 words, I think that's a little much. Okay, so I actually definitely try to stay within the limits. Okay, but my struggle as a writer is I'm always usually on the upper bound, closer to the upper bound than the lower bound. So I really have to be careful, trying not to go over the word limit. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions to choose from. And usually in the previous videos, I did brainstorming for all of them. But for this video here, I actually, since I was restricting myself in, since I was giving you complete solutions, I decided to restrict myself to the 1 hour and 30 minutes to get everything done. So I don't have any brainstorming for any of the questions actually, other than a complete solution for question 5 I chose. Okay, so I chose to answer question 5, which is write a story which includes the sentence, when she tried to open the door, she was surprised that the key didn't fit. Okay, so it's a narrative text, and let's jump right in and see what I have for you. Okay. And here, don't forget the instructions. You have to write down the number of the question. Okay. So remember, I like narrative text because you just have so much room to be creative and do whatever you want. So here, the only thing that I need to respect, the only requirement is to have my first sentence be, or not even, it includes the sentence, okay, which includes. So it can be at the beginning, it can be at the end, it just needs to include. So for me, I chose to put it right at the beginning. When she tried to open the door, she was surprised that the key didn't fit. Okay, so here we go. Let's read it and then we can analyze it. When she tried to open the door, she was surprised that the key didn't fit, even though she was standing before the correct door. Okay. You must be kidding me, she said, trying to hold her tears back and attempting to force the key in the hole. Not only was Lisa traveling alone for the first time, but the host of her Airbnb, the only contact that she had in the city, had already left the country. Lisa met with the host, Seymour, a few hours prior at the airport when her flight had just landed. It was a peculiar situation. Not often, maybe never, does a host leave their country on the same day that their guest is arriving. But in Lisa's case, it happened. It was at the JFK airport that, as Seymour was getting ready to check in, he handed over the keys to his luxurious New York loft to Lisa. Seymour even ordered a taxi at his own expense to ensure that 18-year-old Lisa arrived at the destination safely. Nothing about him left Lisa thinking that he was a scammer. "Breathe, Lisa, breathe," she told herself. She gathered her emotions and managed to send a message to Seymour, praying that he would be quick to respond. "Call me now, urgent," the message read. She sat on the stoop, her luggage by the door, and buried her face in the palm of her left hand. Although she was petrified by the events, Lisa knew that she couldn't call her parents. It was past midnight in their time zone, and alarming them would send the pair into a frenzy. They didn't support her move abroad. The only thing that reassured Lisa was that the neighborhood in which she was stranded didn't look baleful. So baleful means didn't look good, dangerous, scary, or threatening. Okay? The people walking by didn't seem to notice or care that she was unacquainted. Unacquainted meaning that she wasn't from the area, she's a stranger. After a 2-hour wait, Lisa's stomach was growling. She gets hungry? "Not now," she retorted. It was almost 11 p.m. Lisa hadn't eaten since she was on the plane 9 hours ago. She told herself that she would wait 1 more hour, hoping that Seymour would call her, and if not, she would then opt for a hotel. Eventually, the hour ran out. A little voice in her mind convinced her to attempt to open the door one last time. She tried and was disappointed once more. In a fit of rage, Lisa manhandled the door lever and kicked the door whilst trying to force the key inside the hole. As she did so, the keyhole widened and the key slipped in. Lisa stepped back, baffled, and synchronously, her phone rang. So synchronously means simultaneously, so at the same time. So at the same time that she stepped back, her phone rang. It was Seymour. Lisa was dazed, like, whoa, what? What's going on? "Sorry, my flight was delayed," he said aloof. "Anyway, press the button on the door lever, the keyhole will widen and the key will fit in." "How did you assume?" "I've been a host for many years. Most guests don't bother to read the instructions that I send them." Lisa was embarrassed. Okay, so I hope that you understand my story. Okay, but I will just quickly walk you through the whole story. So when she tried to open the door, there's someone at the door, she's trying to open it, and she noticed that the key doesn't fit, right? And she's standing at the right door, so it's weird. So she's getting upset, and here we see that what I'm stating is that she just landed in the city, and she's from abroad, and it's the first time that she's traveling alone, so it's scary. You're traveling alone, and the key to where you're supposed to stay doesn't work, so of course you freak out, right? And it's weird because the only person, which is the host, so the person who owns that place, is not around. They left the country. okay? And what happened is that she got the keys from the guy at the airport. So when she landed, he was at the airport getting ready to leave, okay? So they exchange the keys, and she goes to the place, and he doesn't look like a scammer. Why would he scam her and give her a wrong key on purpose? So I'm building up suspense. What's going on? Did he just accidentally give her the wrong key? What's going on? And in the meantime, she's telling herself, breathe, okay? So here, this section here is a flashback, right? It's a flashback. We're talking about the airport. And then we're going back to the situation, the present time, when she's telling herself to breathe. And she messages the host, which is Seymour, and she says, call me now. It's super urgent, right? I can't get in the loft. What's going on, right? The message read, okay, and she sat on the stoop. So the stoop is the stairs. So there's a staircase in front of the door. So she sat on the stoop with her luggage by the door, and she just puts her face in the palm of her left hand, and she's like, oh my goodness, how can this happen to me? I'm freaking out. I'm in a new city, in a new country. I don't know anyone. No one can help me. And she doesn't want to call her parents, because her parents were telling, not only is it late where they are, but they also didn't want her to move in the first place. So imagine if you tell your parents don't want you to go somewhere, you go anyway and move, and then after you end up in a bad situation, your parents are going to tell you, I told you so, you shouldn't have left. So she didn't want to call them. She wanted to figure it out by herself, okay? And thankfully here, I kind of kill the suspense by letting the reader know that the neighborhood is not dangerous, okay? It's not dangerous, and the people don't really care, so no one's really threatening her, right? Even though she's alone and stranded. And then after a 2-hour wait, she gets hungry, okay? So this is just a little detail just to play on with the drama, right? She's hungry, and then she just yells at her stomach. She says, hey, not now, okay? It was almost 11 p.m., okay? And she didn't eat since she was on the plane, and she told herself, okay, I wait 1 more hour. And then after waiting 1 hour, she was like, okay, fine, I'll go to the hotel. But a little voice in her mind told her, no, you should try one more time, like one more time to open the door. And that's when she tries, it doesn't work. So what does she do? Of course, this here is suspense as well, because maybe the reader thought that, okay, maybe this one last time it'll actually work, but it doesn't work. So she takes the door handle and she's just roughing it up, and she's kicking the door, and she's trying to put the key like this. Like if I have, this is the key. She's just trying to put the key, and she's going like this with the handle. And accidentally, as she's doing that, the key goes in. So she's like, whoa. She steps back, and just somehow, coincidentally, at that moment, her phone also rings, and it's Seymour. So she's like, whoa, what's going on? Like, the key goes in, and also just when the key does actually go in now, he calls me, like, now, when I don't need you anymore, now you call me. So he says, sorry, my flight was delayed. So that's why he was on the plane longer. And he says, anyway, there's actually a button on the door lever that when you press that button, the key will fit in. So when she was doing this here and just manhandling the door lever, she manhandled it, and she actually pressed on a button without knowing. So the button made the keyhole widen, and the key went in, right? Which she wasn't really doing here, right? At the beginning, she wasn't really holding onto the lever. She was just trying to put the key before opening the door, okay? So that's when he told her, just click on the button on the door lever and it will go in. And she was just confused. She's like, wait, how did you just know what I was calling you about? And that's when he says, listen, I've been a host for many years, and most guests don't bother to read the instructions. And Lisa was embarrassed, right? Because she herself did not read the check-in instructions that the host, Seymour, sent her. So this is just, it turns out to be a story about, there's a moral to the story. Is read instructions. You know, I'm someone who, when I buy something new or when I try to do something, I don't usually skip, or when I play a game, I try to skip, sorry. I try to skip the instructions and figure it out, okay? And that's what Lisa did, and she ended up being embarrassed because this whole time, if she just checked her Airbnb app and she just checked the message that was sent to her, she would have known exactly how to open the door, okay? So there you go. That's the story that I came up with. And again, what I did is I just sat there and I told myself, okay, if I'm somewhere and a key doesn't work, what would I do, and what could the story be like? Who's gonna help me? Is anyone there to help me? Am I alone? And you just get creative with it. There's endless possibilities, especially when it comes to narratives. You could literally do anything you want. So you just have to sit there and just think what would make it interesting. And here I just thought that this kind of story would be interesting, and adding a plot twist. So the plot twist is just, you know, instead of it being dramatic, because it starts off very dramatic, oh my goodness, what is she gonna do, or is someone going to hurt her? But it turns out that this whole time she was safe, and this whole time all she had to do was read instructions. Okay, so that's what I have for section 2. And you have any comments or questions, let me know down below. But that is leading us to the end of English Language O-Level, Paper 1, Writing, October-November 2019, Variant 1-1. Okay, and I hope that this video is helpful. Okay, there will be more. And I think the next one, what I'm going to try to do is I will actually do some brainstorming for all of them and just give you complete solutions for two tasks, so 2 questions. Okay, other than that, again, thank you for making it to the end of the video, and I do hope that you have a great day or a great night depending on where you are located in the world. Okay, and I will talk to you soon.